on the roads of Nairobi. This morning, I feel like starting with some good news. It's just that type of day. I'm usually giving you all the bad news, and we'll get to that. But let's look at some areas where traffic is not so great, or not so bad, rather. Starting with the Westlands area. As you can see, this nice green right down past Kempinski and into the museum roundabout. Not looking bad at all this morning. Where else can we see things not looking bad? Dennis Pruitt area, Yaya Center area, Upper Hill as well. State House Road, Valley Road as well. Things are not looking too bad this morning. We'll see where else. Did the green just disappear? Was that it? Is that all the good news we have this morning? No, we have some more here on Muthaiga Road coming down this way, down the City Park area. So that's not looking too bad. But in terms of areas you should avoid this morning, we are looking for that deep dark red. So let us begin right here, okay, and this is right from the Kenya Utalii College coming down Pangani Heights. That is looking very nasty in this area close to Muthaiga Mathare Mental Hospital coming down this way. So that's an area to avoid. Where else should you avoid this morning? How about right here, Waiakue? That's something that we've grown accustomed to coming down into the Westlands area. Waiakue is not looking good, and it starts all the way back here, right at the Musa Gitau Road. That's close to Kianda School. So the traffic on Waiakue coming all the way down to the Westlands area, that's a place to avoid. Let's look at Langata Road, also giving us not so great vibes this morning. So starting around the Langata Cemetery area, coming all the way down into past Carnivore, that area is also to be avoided this morning, as it is not looking too bad. Although the southern bypass coming down this way is not looking too horrible. So that's an area maybe that you can take a look at. Of course, if you look at the concentration of all the red and maroon happening, it usually happens because all of these people are trying to get into the CBD, and you can see that here this morning. There's a Nyayo Stadium roundabout coming into town, not looking so great. And also right here, Valley Road was fine, but once you get right close to the city center on Kenyatta Avenue, things start to turn for you there. And of course, within the city square, things not looking so great there as well. There is a small patch here I want to look at on State House Road, actually coming into Processional Way, where things get a little bit tricky. So these are some areas to avoid this morning. Now, the great news here on Daybreak is that we actually have someone on the streets, on the roads, to give it to us live and tell us exactly what's happening on the streets. His name is Kimani Mbugwa. So good morning, Kimani. Tell us where you are. If we can get him, can we get Kimani this morning to tell us where he is and also the situation on the roads, and tell us what his plan is for Daybreak this morning?
Good morning, Joey. This is, of course, the traffic update, and today we have a new story. Probably if you've been in Nairobi and you've been arrested now and you've gone through a very hideous court process and you hated the process, you hated being in a police jail cell and taking over a week because of a traffic offense that you committed, that is probably about to end in the next 30 days because the government, it will introduce instant fine system. Now, there was a court battle that ended 2 days ago where the Kenyan National Union of Cooperative Staff sued the government for planning to implement the instant fines. Now, these were introduced by the Ministry of Transport in 2016, but then they were challenged in court. But then the High Court ruled that these instant fines actually make economic sense. Now, this morning we want to have a conversation with motorists on the roads on these instant fines, which means now when you commit a traffic offense in traffic, you don't have to go through a very prolonged court process, going through the police, being put in a police cell and then going to court and then pleading guilty and then being fined and then paying the fine and then going back, and then your businesses will stop, and then it's such a hideous process and it's so painful. Now that is about to end. And CS Fred Matiang'i confirmed that yesterday at the National Policing Conference, and this will be implemented in the next 30 days. In fact, a task force has been formed to come up with the best way of implementing this. Now, I'm going to give you a brief of some of the things you can be arrested and fined for. Some of those are obstruction and driving without a license, carrying more than one passenger. That is if you're using a motorbike, And here's an interesting one, exceeding the speed limit, which most of you actually do. There's a speed limit. So if you exceed the speed limit with 1 to 5 kilometers per hour, they're going to give you a warning. They're going to tell you you've exceeded the speed limit, but for now, we are warning you, so you can get away with that. That is, if you exceed the speed limit with 1 to 5 kilometers per hour. So if you're supposed to drive at 50 and you're driving at 51 to 55, they're just going to give you a warning, and next time don't repeat it. If you exceed with between 6 and 10 kilometers per hour, they're going to fine you 500 shillings. So you can get a ticket for 500 shillings, you pay it instantly, and then you move on. If you exceed with over 10, between 10 and above, the fines can go up to 3,000, and that is going to cost you money. Here's another interesting one. Did you know that the matatu operators are supposed to keep seat belts in a clean and usable condition? So if a matatu operator does not keep their seat belts clean in such a way that passengers can use them, they might be there. Most of them don't actually take care of them, and most of them are dirty. They've been stepped on by passengers. So if you get into a matatu and the seat belts are dirty, the person who's operating that matatu is liable to pay a fine of 500 shillings. And if you're driving without wearing your seat belts, you can also pay 500 shillings. These are instant fines. It means a police officer is going to fine you instantly. Now, this task force has been formed by the ministry, is going to include the Ministry of ICT, which we presume is going to be to find a way of getting a system, where a digital payment system where they can just pay them, you can just pay directly. Now, we spoke to the Nairobi traffic commandant this morning to get how soon they can implement this. He said there has been no official communication from the government to implement these fines, which means it's going to come in the next 30 days. So they're trying to get the system in order. It means now traffic offences, this is the minor traffic offences that are going to be easy. Now, we want to get your opinion on some of these traffic offences. It's a long list, so I've put up a tweet right now. You can see some of the offences and the amount you're supposed to pay. I think the maximum amount you're supposed to pay on that list is around 10,000. Remember, these are just minor offences. There are major offences which will require a prolonged court process and maybe even witnesses. But these ones are just minor ones, which sometimes they inconvenience most motorists. Instead of you having to go to court, where you can plead guilty. In fact, Justice John Mativo, said that why should you take somebody to court if they're already pleading guilty to the offense that they've committed? In fact, he said that if this is implemented well, it can reduce corruption. Most people actually end up going through a corrupt process to avoid going to court. So it has now introduced convenience with the judicial process. That is, of course, the sentiment shared by CS Fred Matiang'i. Now, we want to get your opinion. We're going to get into traffic in the next link and talk to people. See, what is your opinion? Do you prefer to pay an instant fine, or do you want to go to court and, argue your case if you're not guilty? Which one do you prefer, an instant fine or just going to court? That is the conversation we'll be having this morning, Joey.